respond, so you were going to say something.
Right. So you basically made this emendation about politicians, which I've said I have no knowledge about. But let me kind of move away from the, bless you to whoever's speaking out there. Let me move away from the particular political issue and talk about the first thing you said. And let me just repeat it, in kind of active listening, and then try and kind of comment on it, and then you'll respond, of course. So you say that, 1,000 planes landing safely is not news. The plane that crashes, that's news. So I want to just offer a different vision on that, which is 1,000 planes that land safely require 1,000 different people, right, to thank you so much, 1,000 different people to maintain them, to take care of them, right? It's 1,000 people doing their job with integrity. And it's 1,000 pilots, with their skill. So actually that is news. It's only when news is driven by ratings, when news ceases to become news, when news becomes, and this is something I believe that the person who said it before, Dennis Prager's actually pointed out, right? That news becomes ratings, right? And when news becomes ratings, meaning it's not about what's new, it's about an advertising business where you have to sell ads, and it appeals to people's lowest instincts. So for example, a famine in Biafra gets less coverage than O.J. Simpson, being chased by the police, because news is driven purely by what you called, earlier, kind of the lowest common denominator of humanity. Right? Well, then you should only be interested in the 1%. What that means is that you're not acting, and describing reality. You're letting yourself be driven by the lowest common denominator of humanity. And you're kind of feeding, if you will. You're feeding. It's like, remember the Colosseum in Rome, where you would feed people to the lions? So can I just give you an image? I mean, maybe the blogosphere, right, is a place where people are fed to lions. It means we try and find what's flawed in the person, true or not true, doesn't really matter, as long as we can kind of hook on something. Then we kind of create a kind of tabloid Roman Colosseum, run by the lowest human instinct, which you described yourself earlier, right? And why would you look forward with an intelligent, refined, person who can fall in love, right, with the waitress? Why would you want to let yourself be determined and controlled by this lowest human instinct?
Okay, let me respond.
Please. That's how you started writing there. I was getting nervous.
Yeah, I never said, I didn't.
Please correct me.
I didn't say anything about lowest common denominator.
No, that was my phrase.
That was your phrase. Okay, when you say and condemn news driven by ratings, let's unpack that to use Gafniism.
Nice phrase. You were reading Soul Prince, Luke.
Another word for ratings is reality. Meaning, when we say high ratings, we mean news that people want to read or watch on TV. And even more than that, it's news that advertisers will pay to advertise on because there will be enough readers or viewers to reward them for their advertising. In other words, we're talking about news that sustains itself. Talking about news that people are willing to pay for with either their time or attention. So when you say, saying a newscast or a newspaper or a blog has high ratings, that's the same as saying that a particular business is profitable. And when you say business is profitable or a blog has high ratings, what you're saying is that a lot of people want to read that or buy that. And so now a lot of people want to buy pornography and buy drugs and buy bad things, but a lot of people want to buy good things. So the fact that a lot of people want something is not necessarily an indicator that we're dealing with the lowest common denominator. And we have so little spare time that I don't see anything wrong with a person preparing to spend 30 seconds on the plane that crashed and killed 83 people, as opposed to spending 30 seconds. Which frankly is not a particularly interesting story to me, is like all the different safety procedures that account for 10,000 planes landing safely. I mean, it's an important story, and somebody should do it, but it's not particularly compelling.
So can I challenge you on that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So first off, you corrected me, which was a fair correction, and you didn't use the phrase lowest common denominator. That was my phrase. The phrase that you used, I think, was correct. It was kind of the default human being. You know, the person that the natural human being is a rapist.
Yeah, the natural man is a rapist, yeah.
Right. So then the question is, the natural viewer, right, wants to be titillated. The natural viewer wants to be, you know, entertained by drugs, violence. I believe, again, I'm only citing him because you referred to him, both when we talked this morning, as someone that you kind of believed in a lot in terms of his teaching. So I believe that Dennis Prager wrote someplace, and they had a television show, right? He said that he quit because I think
the highest rating show was the lingerie show.
The highest rating show was the lingerie show, and here he's doing all these deep and complex shows and issues. Then he's got, you know, 5 people in lingerie. That's the highest rating. And he was so disgusted by it, he quit national TV. And that's the question. In other words, the easiest thing to do, it's easier to look at 5 beautiful women in lingerie, right, than it is to talk about, you know, the 60 million people that don't have health insurance. It's just easier.
Exactly. I'd rather look at 5 women.
Right, but what I'd rather do is, and I think you would also, all right, that's what I'm challenging you on, and you can push back, as I'm sure you will. I don't think you're known to be shy, so I'm not worried about that, okay? But I think that actually talking about the 50 million people who are suffering because they don't have health insurance and trying to come up with a solution so that there'll be more compassion and more goodness in the world, actually, on a deeper level, right, is actually more satisfying than looking at the 5 women in lingerie. Now, they're different satisfactions, and by the way, they both have validity, right? You know, aesthetic beauty is beautiful, but ultimately, there's something that, and I apologize for referring to that book, Soul Prince, again, you know, but here we go.
I hated that book.
I hated that book, right? But there's an idea that we talk about there, right, called aftertaste. And aftertaste means, you know exactly what it means. When I eat junk food, great experience, bad aftertaste. I eat really great food, right? You know, really good aftertaste. You know, bad sex makes you good during sex, bad aftertaste. Beautiful, loving sex, right? Or beautiful, you know, erotic, wild sex, but when it's got the right container, great aftertaste. So the question is like this, you know, 5 women in lingerie on Prager's TV show, whatever, nice moment. But you actually spend an hour trying to, you know, develop creative solutions to get 50 million people to be covered under health insurance. You know, children, you can get treatment for, you know, for leukemia. You know, parents, you know, aren't going to die and have their kids, you know, raised as orphans. You actually work on that. Your aftertaste is fabulous. You know, oh my God, I just did this incredibly valuable thing. So I guess what I'm asking is, I'm asking, I guess, a rabbi question. You know, but I'm not asking it as a rabbi. I'm kind of giving up the formal rabbiing. You know, I'm kind of more of a spiritual artist. So I'm asking you as a spiritual artist and as a friend for these 3 hours. You know, we'll see what happens, right? But we're committed to be here for these 3 hours. Wouldn't you rather spend your life doing something that gives you great aftertaste? Is that a fair question? We get a nod, no video.
I'm thinking.
Please. I'm drinking.
There are things that are more important to me than aftertaste. And I'll answer with an empirical example.
Okay.
I was immersed in the bowels of the pornography industry for about 12 years. So the pornography industry is basically what people who know nothing about the pornography industry think it is. No, it's a low, scummy place. That's what it is. I broke a story about a guy who had HIV and who was transmitting HIV to a lot of other people. Now, this was a very dirty story. This is about deviant forms of sex. This is about deception. This is about, prostitution industry. Everything about this story is yucky. I can't really tell the story, in a polite company because every detail is revolting. By publishing that story, I saved a lot of people's lives. This guy was outed as HIV positive. He was stopped performing. There were girls who were scheduled to perform with him who did not perform with him because of what I wrote. And once you've had the rush of saving lives, worries about aftertaste or